I'm here with Shelly Festa, a realtor and divorce specialist.
Yes.
So I know that we got to connect and kind of collaborate on the divorce subject, and it's one that we're both enthusiastic about. Is
Not so much
enthusiastic the right word?
enthusiastic.
No, I don't promote divorce, but I support those who are going through it. Is that a good way to say it?
Of course. I think what you're trying to say is that we understand the process.
Yes.
We've been through it ourselves.
There you go. Thank
once,
you for reading my mind. I
So-
appreciate it. We'll fix that. We'll fix that. So yeah, so one of the things I saw, you have it here and I have a copy of it, and it's actually, you've written a book about the best-selling options in a divorce. So tell me, what is the difference between a divorce transaction versus a normal sale for you?
Emotion. It's all about the emotion. And it's all about understanding both sides, both parties, and making it seem like you're not taking sides. It's very hard to do. As realtors, we're emotional people. We try to go right down that straight line, but it's hard. Sometimes you want to take the wife's side. Sometimes you want to take the husband's side. So emotion is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that staying objective can be,
Yes.
it's not so much challenging as it is like you want to make sure that they understand that you're being objective. And like you
Absolutely.
said, they don't really trust that that's the case depending on who's bringing you on. So what do you find is one of the, other than the emotion, what are some of the mistakes that people make in the middle of all of that? Because I know since there is so much emotion, that's usually when people are not supposed to be making big decisions.
Yeah, and it is the hardest decision because there's so much going on internally that the last thing they ever thought about was to sell their house. They really need someone to be able to guide them along the way. To take the part that they're going to have to split everything up and split the money. And then we'll go into that because we're able to also, lead them to the right attorneys that will be able to help them with that as well. Yeah, as far as the hardest part, it's getting them to understand that they have the same end goal. And even though they might hate each other or they might tear each other's eyes out, it is the same end goal, and we're just trying to get there as easy as possible.
I think I found that in divorce, immediately, obviously, if you've been married for any length of time or even just a short period of time, typically your partner, the good and the bad side of them. And so you kind of understand how they fight.
Yes.
And I found that people immediately go to a place of distrust.
Of course.
And so they're responding or reacting from the assumption that that person is their enemy. Even when people have the best intentions and start to go into it in a positive way, like, okay, we're gonna do this friendly, we're gonna do this great. It never seems to fail that at some point people are triggered and they suddenly don't trust the other person.
Absolutely.
So it's like you're dealing with these major life decisions, splitting up a family, perhaps, maybe selling a home, trying to figure out what your future is.
Absolutely.
The ending of the future that you thought you were going to have.
You were never going to have. You thought you were going to die together. You thought you were going to grow old together. You thought you were going to retire together. You thought you were going to see in that house, you thought you were going to see your kids graduate college and high school. And now that's all dissolving. Those are all the things that you have to be super mindful and sit and listen and take note to and understand who's triggered more than the other so that when it comes back to that topic again, you can kind of subdue it, I guess you would say.
Yeah. I found that on the financial side. I mean, when you're dealing with finances, you start to talk about taking someone's money or what's mine is mine, yours is mine, whatever. Like when people get into that conversation, people are very quick to get defensive.
Absolutely. When it comes to money, it doesn't even matter if you were married. Look at siblings. Anytime there's a large sum of money that came in between you, when you have to now say, oh, well, I'm going to take half of it, or you might not actually be getting what you think. And that's definitely a conversation that you may need to have because you didn't expect to sell your house in 2 years. You didn't expect that you might have to pay capital gains. You didn't expect that you didn't increase in value.
Right.
So it might not be a win-win for everybody. So, a regular real estate transaction is difficult in general. But you're dealing with all these factors that no one ever thought they would have to face.
That's a really good point that you make is any real estate transaction, any sale of any home comes with a lot of emotion. Yeah. Even if people are wanting to make that sale and excited for the next step, it's still an emotional thing to do because if you purchased a home just like with a marriage, like you have an idea of maybe staying there, or maybe you've had memories there, or all of these things that happen that in the home, good, bad, ugly, different, it has history. So even if it was a short period of time, especially I think if it was a short period of time, it wasn't intended to be, it could be really difficult.
And that's where it gets really frustrating, you know, because then you get those emotions. Why did you do this? How could you put us in this position? I mean, and you have to, as the realtor, we have to be able to just be completely emotionless.
Yeah.
And compassionate at the same time.
So understanding those challenges, why would you choose to become a divorce specialist? Like what led you to become specialized in that?
Because I think that there is a need for it. I think that there's I've been through a few. We'll leave it at a few. And, you know, myself, I've seen just the mayhem of it all.
Yeah.
And knowing what I've lost and even being a professional in it, knowing that there's someone that needs to be there for them because they can't rationally go through it alone. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of realtors really have the mentality to do that. And I want to be that person that's able to say, hey, guys, let's get through it together. Mm-hmm. It's going to be okay at the end, even if it's not everything you expected it to be. But let's just get through this.
Yeah, I definitely think that having an experience through it, not that that's a fun experience. I also have my own experiences, but when you have gone through it and you've seen and felt what it's like, and then you've come out the other side and you have maybe some time on the other side and you can see it from
see it from the outside looking in.
From like the whole, instead of being in the middle of the muck, you can see it from afar and you can kind of say, well, I made this emotional decision or that, or maybe I was a little bit to 100%. This or to that. So I can see how having an experience of your own would really bring some expertise to helping people through that situation. That's why I decided to also get into the same type of thing. And so do you find that people struggle with who to choose as an agent when it comes to that?
Absolutely. So the biggest friction, or I guess the biggest conflict is when they're looking for an agent is, I want to use my agent. No, I want to use my agent. No, I want to use my agent because my agent's going to look out for my best interest. Well, if you use your agent, you're going to get more than I am. They're looking out for you. So there's that battle. So I want to bridge that gap where it's almost like an escrow company.
Right.
Where I am completely free of any emotion to either party.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the agent that went to your kids' birthday parties. I don't want to be your brother's agent that helped you with the sale of the house. I want to be that person. When you look me up, you know that I have the experience and that I'm going to be able to get through it as easy as possible with no emotion. And I'm not rooting for either side. I'm rooting for you both.
Right. Being completely and totally objective. Yes. You know, that's a really good point that you bring up again, is that, you know, maybe you had a real estate agent who helped you with the purchase of your home.
Yeah.
And that
doesn't mean that that's going to be the right person.
Yeah. Because maybe, you know, like you said, it was either somebody that you both knew. And you know, it's not for the weak at heart.
It really is not.
Helping people through the divorce process and really trying to manage emotions. It is kind of like a therapy session.
It is. I am an emotional manager. I'm an emotional manager. I mean, even regular real estate agents, just the general residential agent says the same thing. And in this, it's amplified. Like,
yeah. Do you have any one particular thing that stands out that's been like the most challenging experience that you've dealt with?
Yes.
Yeah, but you don't want to share?
I will share.
Share it.
They're not following me on social media. So I did have a situation where I did not know either party, but actually another agent referred me to them because they did know both parties.
Okay.
And they knew way too much about the situation. So we went together, sat down, and you could immediately feel the tension.
Yeah.
But I was able to sit back because I didn't know either party. You know, when they're throwing little jabs in, you know, are you going to be able to do this? Or are you going to actually going to lift a finger? I mean, it was from the get sitting down. And the other agent was definitely starting to get a little uncomfortable because they never wanted to be put in this situation.
Yeah.
So we sat and we listened, and ultimately the wife ended up making the decision. She was going to go with us and me because I did not have any sway either way. But I also had the expertise.
Right.
And I was also able to identify to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
The husband, he liked me, but he was a little bit more rigid. He did want to bring in his own agent.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. But again, they had to sit down and look at it from an objective point of view. I helped them out of a really, really hard situation. It was more than emotionally tough. It was mental, physical.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that you also have to understand that you're going to have to deal with. Scheduling is difficult. Getting
Right.
people to clean so that you can do an open house is difficult. Then you have animals and, one party really doesn't want to do it. So he's fighting and making everything not go the direction it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult. Did I get it done? Absolutely. Did I get them both in houses afterwards? Absolutely. Which is
That's
another
good.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is another thing we'll bring up because I think it makes a big difference too to know a lender.
Mm-hmm. Hi.
Oh, have you met Brandy?
I'd like to introduce myself.
This is Brandy Lee.
That would be me.
Yeah, no, it's very important just for a general situation like this where they did have some time. They did be able to get away from the capital gains because they were over the 2 years, and they were both financially okay. Not amazing, but they were okay enough that they were able to move on. Did they get exactly what they wanted or what they came from? No. But they were able to work with the lender to get them both somewhere that they were at least comfortable moving on.
I had a mediator in one of my personal experiences that said, that you have a successful divorce when both parties walk away feeling like the other party got it, like feeling a little annoyed, but fine, what it is, what it is. Like nobody really ever walks away
Nobody's
completely happy.
No,
and I think going into the situation, understanding that you're going to have to give a little, they're going to have to give a little, but the goal with all the professionals involved, whether it be your attorney, your real estate agent, your lender, your financial advisor, your tax person, because these are all things that are affected by divorce that you're not really thinking about when you go through a divorce. And I think that's the point of having professionals involved, is really having a team of people who can think of what the future is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because divorce
and
is
what obstacles you're going to encounter.
And how those obstacles and challenges can be avoided by smart decisions and non-emotional decisions during the process, as difficult as that might be. So it is about really navigating through it. It's usually not very feasible to ask people not to be emotional with those decisions. We really recommend that you lean on professionals to kind of help you through that process. And with you and I understanding what the end of that looks like, I've personally been devastated financially by divorces.
I was as well.
Put in situations that,
and it's emotional. It's those emotional decisions because you do, all of a sudden it happens and it just crashes right on top of you. And you don't know, you don't, it's not like researching a college or a bank or where you want to invest your money. All of a sudden it crashes right in front of your face. Where do I find a divorce attorney? Yeah. Well, I have to sell this house. What am I going to do? Well, they don't understand that if you don't have the professional resource circle, that you may miss the mark on many points. Yeah. As you had mentioned, if they don't have the right verbiage in the sale of their house and that's not relayed to with that divorce attorney, it's going to be left out. And things that they could use for their next purchase, they're just not going to be there. Yeah. So to that point, I think one of the, as a lender, usually what we get is we get like the divorce judgment at the very end of the transaction. And so it's already done, sealed, signed, sealed, delivered. And at that point, there's nothing we can really do other than use the information on the judgment. So some of the things that you're talking about with the verbiage and such is those are things that by working with a CDLP and somebody who is an expert in divorce on the agent side is really kind of making those decisions and looking at everything before you get it signed, sealed, and delivered. And one of those things is just making sure that maybe both parties are in a position to purchase a home after the fact, making decisions that don't completely destroy your credit because you're being vindictive. What are we going to do with the equity in the house? How, is the spouse who's staying in the home able to even qualify for a refinance at the end of that transaction? Even if they were awarded the home, can they afford it? How are we going to set them up to afford it? Verbiage such as whether it's going to be
alimony versus maintenance. I mean, that's going to make a big difference.
And that's the key, is that just one little word could change how they could potentially qualify in the future.
Yeah. And we're talking about debts, like how those debts are divided, what that looks like when you're qualifying for a mortgage. All that can be really fixed and helped along the way. But once that settlement is final, it can't be changed. Like you would have to go back in the court to change in order to change those things. As a CDLP, I don't charge anything for consultation.
And as a realtor, I'm not charging either.
Yeah. So we can go in as a team, meet with your attorney, and both attorneys, really.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're objective.
Come up with a proper plan.
Right. Maybe we could all sit at a table, to do it. But like, regardless, it's something that can be a plan that is in the best interest of all parties. And really, especially if you have children involved in a situation, you might be angry with your soon-to-be ex-spouse and be making decisions that because you want to hurt them, but ultimately you're hurting the kids.
Absolutely.
So if
that
you
is
can,
what it comes down to.
Yeah. And if you can set up both homes so that the kids, if they're going to be going back and forth, to be as equal as possible. My experience as a divorcee, and a single mom was that that's such a weird word, right? Like it sounds like fiance.
It's like mortgage, like death. Like
oh, don't say that.
No, but that's what the mortgage means.
Yeah, that's a good point. Had I known what I know now, I would have been able to purchase a home after my divorce, and my kids could have had some stability. I didn't realize that how I could use my, spousal support or how I could qualify or any of that. And instead,
and I don't think many people do have that understanding. They don't realize that there is a way to write it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because moving and bouncing from, rental to rental to rental is fine, I guess, whatever. But it's exhausting. It's unstable. It is financially devastating. I mean, it affects you every single time. And you're putting all that money into deposits and rentals and pet deposits and all of these things. And it's like when you could just get in and as rents are continuing to increase every single year, but you could set yourself up in a way that everybody can be as stable as possible. Start with stability and not completely just destroyed. That's why I enjoy doing it. And that is, it's not a fun process to deal with, but I find
it's satisfying and gratifying.
Exactly. That's a really good way to say it.
Yeah. To know that you have the knowledge and the know-how and the experience, not only professional, but personally.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what you've got in these books right here. So with the best-selling options in a divorce, what kind of subjects does that address throughout?
So really what these books are doing, they're letting them know that you have options. They're saying, things from decluttering. They're really trying to open up the seller's eyes to the things you may have to do. And don't worry about it. Someone's going to be there to help you through it. If you need me to hire someone, we'll get that done if that's in your cards. As far as moving, if you need us to find someone, it's a blueprint of you're not alone.
I started to read it, and I have a really hard time reading regular books, which I know sounds completely ridiculous, but I start to fall asleep. So I can read a little bit at a time. Audio all day long, but
audio all day long.
So yeah, if you want me to record an audio, I'll put this on audio for you.
That would be great, actually.
And I'll listen to it.
I would love that.
But yeah, so then you have a couple other ones too, though. So I didn't see these before.
Yeah. So these obviously, so a lot of times, sadly, people that are getting a divorce don't know it.
Yeah. One of them at least doesn't, right?
At least usually sometimes one of them does not know. So, I do find out somehow, or one of them will reach out to me, and I'd like to be able to give them this book. But this is usually after I know both parties' situation, right? That they at least know. Yeah,
because you don't want to.
Because I go and I drop this down. You don't want to just walk into someone's house with this, and they're like, "Why did you bring this?"
Yeah, or the spouse sees it laying around, like, "Wait, why are you?" Why is that book here?
Why do I have that here? It could definitely blow up a situation.
It could.
Yeah. So I have these. This one is specifically for sellers. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, you can. There's a camera there.
Yeah. So this is selling options as well. So it is some similar information in here for selling, but it's a little bit less of a blow than getting this on your doorstep. Yeah. That's kind of the reason. And then also it's universal. And then this is our buyer's guide. So it can also go through the steps of what you may need to do, what you may come up against. I'm not telling you how to be a real estate agent. I'm letting you know what the process is and what you may come up against.
I think those are really great because, we see someone, it's easy to Google and there's so much information out there. It can make people really confused. Even just on a regular buyer can call me up and then we'll be working together, but a friend or family member will decide to say what happened or how they did things 20 years ago. Yeah. And I think it's really important to stay up to date, and Google information is
that
often
is the biggest thing.
content.
You just said that. You hit that one right on the nose. Is somebody may have known a realtor that, or someone may have bought a house 20 years ago. By no means is that experience and that deal going to be anywhere close to what is going on now. What's going on now is different than what was going on a month ago. And a month ago is different than what was going on 6 months ago.
100%.
So if you're not working with someone that is fully immersed in the market and the business, you just don't.
And that's not going to be, no disrespect, but it's not going to be your part-time agent with the markets that we've dealt with from just 2020 through 2023 and ongoing. These markets, while people like to try to compare them to previous markets, they are not comparable.
I started real estate in 2004 in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I went right through the new builds, boom. I was buying and selling, paint, little bit of paint and a little bit of floor and selling, and it was amazing. But I was also there for that crash.
Felt that crash. Yeah.
What just happened is nothing the same of what happened then, because a whole different situation on mortgage, and that's a whole other conversation. You need to have a realtor that is full-time, that does understand it, that does have their feet dug into that sand, willing to struggle to pull it back out so that they can figure out what the next step is.
Yeah.
Because not all transactions are going to be the same, and not all markets are the same.
I don't think there's a single transaction that's the same.
Nope.
It's interesting because even with people who decide to sell their own home in a market like this, or even a year or two ago, it's no big deal. I can do a for sale by owner. I can sell my house and get plenty for it. What I find is that it's not the smooth transactions that you need to worry about.
It's the hard ones.
It's when you hit an obstacle, and that's when your agent or your lender is going to come through and figure it out.
Do they have the know-how to get through that obstacle
and not completely destroy themselves financially, like lose a bunch of money? And so ultimately they end up losing more than they think they would have had they just paid an agent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but by using an agent, you're going to get more from the home to cover your commission, basically.
Absolutely.
I think that goes without saying, or maybe it doesn't go without saying. So I just said it.
You never know. I mean, I've had instances where, I've had multi-million-dollar properties, and all of a sudden they wanted X, Y, and Z fixed, and the sellers just decided they were going to say absolutely not, and they were ready to walk away. And I gave up half my commission just to get it closed.
Yeah.
I will not do that for everyone.
Yeah, come on.
All right, so let's say I've had situations where, the seller just dug their feet into the sand and did not want to budge on negotiations, and I was willing to give up some of what I would walk home with in order to make that transaction happen.
Yeah, well, I think it's just it's a case-by-case basis and really understanding the situation and knowing when you should. And I mean, I've had to do similar. I've done similar things. Again, we do.
Now, if they're not
work
nice
hard
to me,
for our money, so I do want to get paid. But
if they're not nice to me, that's a whole different story.
Be nice to your agent.
Be nice to your agent.
Yeah. So, do you find that you work a lot with divorce family law attorneys then, right?
Yes.
And then what's that conversation look like? I know there's attorneys out there who maybe don't have a specific agent that they're working with. Why would they benefit from working with you?
Because I understand the process. And I also understand the emotion. Yeah. I also understand that there is there's a protocol. And in order for everybody to be happy in the end, I need to also be checking in with their family law attorney. I need to have a rapport with that attorney. And some of them I've never worked with before. But in this area, we have the luxury of working with lawyers that we already know. Right. Yeah. And then we've already connected with.
Yeah. I just got in my head right now. I thought about it. The unknown is the scariest, right? So if you are typically a law-abiding citizen and you've never had to go to court, maybe you've had a ticket, but you've never had to sit in front of a judge.
It's stressful just to sit in front of a judge.
That whole experience is scary. So when I'm telling you, if you haven't been through it, you might be dealing with your attorney and they're thinking like it's no big deal. Well, they're in there every single day. And out here in Riverside County, we've got the family law division out in Hemet.
Yes.
And I always say that's where souls go to die. Because if you walk into that place, it's just,
it's like a dark
it's soul sucking.
cloud.
It's like you feel the energy in there, and it's just gross. And I've been there far too many times than I'd like to admit. And I guess my point in saying that is, if you have the ability to avoid that, and you do.
You do.
By sitting down with a mediator or an attorney, which is basically the same thing, and have the conversations and knock out as much as you can agree on. And maybe if there are some things that you can't agree on, okay, then you have to put it in front of the judge and have him help you deal with those matters. But I think that's something people don't understand, is like, you don't have to have the judge decide everything for you.
You don't. And I will tell you that if you don't sit down with someone, as a family law attorney to negotiate these things, you may be looking at the retainer that they're charging you up front. But trust me, that retainer is far less than what you may lose in the end if you don't sit down with them.
I know that.
I've been there. I've been there. So I know firsthand.
Yeah.
I would never, well, I'm probably not going to do it again, but I would never sit down again if I chose to.
Yeah.
Without having an attorney.
Well, and I think even really knowing who to choose as an attorney.
It's huge.
So coming to you, and maybe you can give a really good referral, or I can give a good referral on who to trust, because there are attorneys out there, no offense to family law attorneys, but not everybody has the best intention. And so some people are about the commission. Some people are about the retainer. Some people are about the check at the end of the day. And if they can keep you in that courthouse, they're going to keep getting paid.
You are
so
true.
It's really important to have an attorney you can trust and that who's been referred to you, who you know is going to get the job done in a succinct manner and really get things done as quickly as possible. Because get in, get out, and get on with your life.
Makes life so much easier.
Don't drag it on.
Yeah.
You're just going to I just keep thinking of that courthouse. It's just so awful.
Don't take your kids to court.
Yeah, don't.
It's tacky.
There's like,
and it's traumatizing.
There's like things there's like beings that attach to them when they walk out of there.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's so bad. All right, did I miss anything? I want to make sure we cover everything, because I love the conversations that we've had, and I am excited to continue working with you. And divorce is not fun, but it is an important conversation to have.
Yeah.
And I think being able to have that conversation, just like writing a will or a trust, I mean, it's not inevitable that you're going to get divorced. But if you are potentially going to go down that path, really understand what you're facing, gain all the information so that you can do it in the best way possible. It doesn't have to completely destroy your life. Yes, it's a start over. Yes, it's a square one, but you can start anew.
Yes, you can.
You can build a great life by making the right decisions, I think.
Agreed. Agreed.
And getting the right professionals in your corner to do that with you.
Get all that energy out by doing it the correct way and move forward.
Yeah, and let's just sit down at your attorney's table instead of the courthouse, because good God, that is not
it's not
fun. Have I made that clear enough yet?
Yeah.
Don't go.
It's not fun. Just don't do it.
Yeah, but it can be done.
And I do believe in love. I will say that. I do believe in love. I just made really bad choices.
Oh my gosh, me too. I always call myself a hopeful romantic, and that might be the thing that keeps biting me in the ass.
Yeah.
Just keep trying.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep doing it. I need to fish in a different pond. But
yeah. Same.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. Well. I'm sure we'll be back. We'll have more stories to share. But
yeah, we're going to have, anonymous stories.
All anonymous. We're not going to share your stories. Yeah. All right.
Awesome,
Thank
Brandy.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.